Hi, my name is Laura Gibson and I'm the Global Artistic Director for Rusk. Today we are going to be doing a technique called Bronded by the Light. Bronded by the Light is a great technique for a brunette that you want to add dimension in, but not blonde all the way. It's just something to break up her natural and add ribbons of highlights all throughout. So today on my model Brana, as you can see, she's got a natural level 5, so that's pretty dark. And this technique is a surface highlight, which means I'm not going to be saturating the hair on both sides. So I need to make sure in my formulation that I'm using a higher developer because I do not have that saturation. I'm only going to be on the top layer of the hair. So I'll be using the Deep Shine Ultimate Blonde Blue Powder Lightener with 40 volume, and I'm going to mix that 1 to 2. I'm gonna make sure that on her hairline around here that I am gonna bring that up a little bit higher, but as she comes towards the back, there's gonna be like a nice smooth transition. So that way as this grows out, it'll look really, really seamless. And the only service she'll need to worry about in between the appointments is coming in for a deep shine gloss. So before I even get started, I'm going to be using a hair painting technique. That means it is a surface only highlight. Since it's surface only, I know that I need to make sure that I use a stronger developer. Reason being why is if I use too low of a volume, I'm really not gonna be able to get that lift that I need when I'm using a surface highlight. So I'm using the Rusk Deep Shine Ultimate Blonde Blue Powder Lightener and 40 volume. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I like to pre-section everything out. I find this makes it easier, and also I'm creating a plan. And once I have a plan, I can work that plan on the hair, right? So that way I don't get lost in case I get talking with her and I'm like, oh my God, where am I at? So I'm gonna go ahead and pre-section Brana out. All right, so I have her all pre-sectioned, and as you can see, I'm having it come diagonal back, and this is gonna help me give that nice like pop that's gonna live like right in here by making sure I get these corner pieces. I need the depth to live, so I'm gonna leave this out, but to take a look at the sectioning that I've done, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subsections on each side of the head. So that's how I'm gonna be able to keep that depth in the hair. I'm gonna make sure that I don't paint every piece because like I said, she's a blonde, not a blonde. So I need to make sure that I don't over highlight. If you over highlight on a blonde, what tends to happen is then you have to gloss and root shadow to bring it back down. And that's gonna cost you even more time, which we don't want, because if it takes more time, then that's less clients we can do behind the chair. And if it's less clients we can do behind the chair, then it's less money we're making. So doing it this way will really help make sure that I just hit my mark on the first go and there's no edits after that. So anytime you paint, I have a few tricks that are gonna help you paint. So first thing I do is I load my board. I have this area where I'm gonna grab, and this is gonna be the regrowth area. If I were to be pulling through on her mid-lengths and ends, this is how I load it. I add more product in this top area up here, and that is where I'm gonna use the saturation on the mid-lengths and ends. However, in her case, I'm gonna be working really, really visually. If it's already blonde, I do not need to touch it. I'm just going to connect it. So I'm gonna go in here, and I'm gonna grab a triangle piece. And as I can see, she already has the blonde living here. So all I need to do is really connect there. So this is gonna be even quicker because I already have all that color that I'm working with. So I'm taking a nice fine bead, and then I'm coming in, and I'm not going straight all the way to the root. I'm coming a little bit off the root and then feathering up too. And then on this side, I'm actually gonna start it a little lower. So by me varying where these points start, I'm already building in diffusion into my color, so it's less I have to do when I go to gloss and tone. So now I'm gonna come on this side, I'm gonna grab that same triangle, and I'm gonna paint that same little triple. And I always say, anytime you're doing a balayage, which is a surface highlight, you always want to make sure if you're making any drastic changes to the haircut that you do that first. Operating this way, especially since the pandemic, has allowed me to save so much time on how I'm booking my clients. I'm able to take more clients because my haircuts aren't taking me nearly as long because I'm doing it before I even color. And my clients are also loving it because since the pandemic, they're not only moms, now they're career women, and they're trying to do everything all at once at home. So they have even less time now at the salon. So anywhere you could save a little bit of time for your client, she's gonna really, really appreciate in today's climate. So now as I'm working my way up, I'm working around the hairline. And we all know that no hairline is exactly the same. So super, super important is like you want to observe exactly the curvature before you even start painting. This is what's gonna help really make that impactful placement. So the first thing I noticed on her is like it kind of like curves forward and then back. And she's got this really, really nice shape. There is a few baby hairs. So what I do with baby hairs is I go ahead, especially on a brunette, I comb these out of the way. If I need to clip them, I clip them. And now I can really place her highlight around her face exactly how it's going to fall and live, which is super, super important. I find one way or one thing that really gets like you buzzing behind the chair and kind of sets you apart, clients absolutely love customization. So by me letting her know how I'm gonna paint her hairline and why I'm gonna paint her hairline that way, now she has even more confidence and trust in me that I pay attention to the details. And the devil is always in the details. So that's one thing that's gonna set me apart to her, and she's gonna go tell all of her friends about it. Another thing that I do with all my guests is I talk to them about their skin tone and their eye color. So when I look at Brana, I notice, go ahead, look at the camera. She's got these beautiful hazel green eyes, and she's got this nice, it's like a little bit pale, but it's not, it doesn't really have pink undertones for her skin tone. And because this is so light, it's washing her skin tone out a little bit, which is why when her and I were chatting, I mentioned that we were gonna be going more golden and a touch darker blonde on everything, because it's gonna look even better on her. It's gonna really enhance her skin tone and also enhance her eye color. That is basically like me creating makeup for her hair color. And I don't know any woman who's gonna wanna look better when they don't have any makeup on. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna grab my little bead. Notice my brush this entire time, I'm keeping it super clean. The cleaner I keep my brush when I'm painting, the better my end result is going to look. It's like that song, get it right, get it tight. All right, so as I was working on her, I kind of realized that something that occurs every day behind the chair just happened, so I just wanted to share it with you, so maybe this will help with you as you're painting behind the chair, or even if you're foiling. So I asked her if she could gently tilt her head towards me, which we all know when you ask a client to do anything with their head, all of a sudden their head is like bobbly and they don't know where to go. So I find the easiest way to guide them is to say, look straight, and then just with your head only, tilt it to the left or whichever way you need them to tilt towards. And then that way she's not gonna be like this, her head will be straight, and then you're able to get that angle you need while you're working, which is also gonna help save you time because you're getting that exact angle you need. I'm on the top, so this is the most important area where I'm going to be adding the lived-in effect. So I'll have her tilt a little bit more. So like, as you can see, these are all coming up higher, but then as I start working my way towards the back, it starts to go a little bit lower. Now, this is great because when her hair grows out, it's gonna keep everything looking really, really soft, and she's not gonna have any harsh lines as it grows out. It'll look really beautiful. The only thing she'll need to maintain in between is a gloss and a treatment. I'm huge, huge, huge on hair health, so I usually, on every service, also do a treatment on all of my guests, which I do charge for because I believe that the healthier the hair is, the sexier the color, no matter what. So by treating her and glossing her in between highlight appointments, I'm really caring for the health of her hair, as well as making more money in between her services. So I'm back around her hairline, and I wanted to show you a trick on how I determine the baby hairs around the face. So what I usually do is the hair will be out of a outside of a clip, and then I'll come in and I'll gently hold this, and then I'm just gently going to, with my fingers, push that back. And now that I see where it's at and what it looks like, now I can clip it out of the way. I don't want to do all of this because it starts to go too into her hairline. So I actually find when this happens, where there's this tiny, tiny little piece that actually looks like it lives above with the previous section, I'm just gonna go ahead and section that out and add it to the section up top. And now this is me customizing her hairline, right? So I noticed something looked off. I know if I paint that guy living down here, that's not where he actually is going to live. So by me putting him back to where he needs to go, I'm able to customize my placement. It's amazing and awesome to learn techniques, but if we don't know how to adjust those techniques or how to look at the hair when we're applying that technique, it's not always gonna hit the mark every appointment. So by me sharing with you little tips and tricks of how I make sure that you always nail that mark, it's really gonna be useful behind the chair. One thing I wanted to kind of demonstrate for you on my models today is like the differences of saturation. Saturation, especially when you're doing a freehand highlight like this, is really going to determine how much lift you're actually going to be able to get on the hair. So if it's really saturated like this, it's like the icing of a cake. I can't actually see the hair through the lightener, right? So now, if I wanted to control the lift and I really didn't want it to be blonde at all, this would be how I would paint that. I would still take my tiny little bead here, and I start it, me personally, I find if I start it further down and I have this nice white, now just blurring it. All right, so this is what we want it to look like. See how it looks really evenly saturated. How it looks while you paint it is how it's going to lift. So if you have it nice and white, like the inside, or not the inside, if it's nice and white, like you would ice a cake, then you're gonna get maximum lift. But if it's more of a sheer application, like so, and I call this more of a dry application. This will lighten more than this will. So if you're having any issues when you're painting with lift and you're using 40 volume, and your painting looks like this, where it's not as nicely saturated, your issue is that you're using like too little of product to really get that lift. It needs to be nice and saturated in order to lift. So I always say the lighter, the whiter. So like the lighter it looks on the hair, the blonder you're gonna be able to go. So I'm gonna come back in because I don't actually want that. And I'm gonna get rid of that little guy. So another thing that's gonna help too to keep this brush clean as you're working is if you have your bowl, I have two different types of brushes. I have this brush, which is my bowl brush, and this is what I use to load my lightener onto the planchette. This never touches the hair. This is the only brush that touches the hair, so I'm able to keep that cleaner as I work. Another trick I have when you're painting behind the chair is to use cotton before you even lay your plastic. This is gonna help prevent any bleeds. So what I like to do is kind of like pull my cotton apart a little bit like that so it sticks more and it's not gonna roll off the hair. So it looks nice, airy, and fluffy. And then you're just gonna come up here, put it onto the hair, and voila. Now I'm gonna cover with plastic. The plastic is gonna protect the hair, but it's also going to incubate heat. All right, so I'm on my last little section here. I know on the other side, my first 4 points came all the way up, and now I'm on that last bit with those last 4 points where now I'm gonna start to diffuse them out. One thing I always say anytime you're painting to avoid that extra streaky look on the top is you wanna make the highlights along the part be sisters, not twins. So they don't wanna match exactly. You wanna have them a little bit off center to each other, and then that way it's also gonna keep that super soft organic flow happening. So I'm gonna come in here, grab my piece, and then I'm gonna have her gently tilt her head towards me like we had seen earlier. Right here I have like a tangle. Do not paint the tangle. You will have issues if you try and paint the tangle. So I'm gonna grab my comb, I'm gonna bring everything in, because really it's about control. We're about 30 minutes in, and if I was not teaching this technique, I would be done in less than 20 minutes of painting it. Because I already had my plan and I'm just working my plan. That's why I really, really love creating a plan before I even start, so then I can stay organized as I work. All right, so I'm gonna have this come up a little bit higher. Dee, 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 dee. Now this is gonna go a little bit lower. Dee, 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 dee. And then this guy behind it is also gonna go a little bit lower. And then, ooh, okay. So this would be a perfect example of like when I need to customize. So as I'm working towards the back here, I notice this is too much space. So I need to actually fit another point in between here. So this side will have a few more points than the other side, and that's okay, because this side also had a little bit more density living. If I overly obsess on exactly how many highlights I paint on this side and try and match it exactly on the other side, majority of the time, it won't actually look balanced in the end, because you have to go based off how much hair someone has and what their density is like. So I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna add that little guy, and then I'm gonna add that other little guy. So like we said, this is a surface highlight, and surface highlights generally don't lift as quickly as your foil highlights, because your foil highlights are generally saturated on both sides of the strand. So one trick I have, especially when they're this dark at the top, to get it to lighten a little bit faster, I do what I call one insurance wrap. And this is gonna really help trap in more heat along that top. Also, if she moves around at all, it's gonna provide more security on her mid-lengths and ends. So I usually do either 2 to 3 sheets of this. So I'm gonna come in, and then I'm gonna walk it around like that. That wasn't large enough, so I need to do another 2-sheeter from the other side coming this way. And I'm gonna wrap it all the way up the hair, and this is gonna help trap in more heat. Boom. Boom. And then one more for the top. Go ahead and gently lift your head up for me. Perfect. Give me a little shake. See how her plastic isn't moving anywhere? So now if she needs to move around at all, I have more security with how I wrapped her. All right, my dear, so she's gonna go ahead and process for 35 minutes. Once again, I use the Rusk Deep Shine Ultimate Blonde Blue Powder Lightener with 40 volume. So I'm gonna have her go ahead and have a seat right over here. So I love versatility. So the technique I just showed you is gonna be a lighter version of my pre-done look. So it's fall, she wants to be a brunette, but we wanted to upplay some of her natural waves. So we did that by using that exact same placement that I did on her, my previous model. I did the exact same placement on her. The only thing I did differently is her gloss. So I went ahead and I glossed on the top area. I used the Rust Deep Shine Gloss 4 chocolate, equal parts with 5 natural. And I used it with 9 volume. The reason why I used the 9 volume over the 0 left was I wanted to warm up her natural just a touch. So by using the 9 volume over the 0 left, I was able to kind of bump it and warm it up even more. So as you can see, she's got this beautiful dimension living throughout her hair, but up top, it looks really, really soft and beautiful. This to me is that perfect shade for fall. It looks great on her skin tone. It's not gonna wash her out, and it has this amazing glow to it. On her mid-lengths and ends, I glossed her with 6 chocolate and 6N. So I applied her regrowth first, and I did what I call a 3-2-1 gloss. And how I section that is in the back. I always section ear to ear, like so. And in the back, everything applied in the back, I'm gonna drag down 3 inches. Now, when I come to the front, I'm gonna section out her hairline, like so. It's not too far back because I want it to look softer. So if you want more softness on your gloss or your root shadow, section off less hair. And that way it's gonna be a thinner piece of highlight living around the face. So then in this area, I drag the gloss down 2 inches, and in the front area, I drag the gloss down only 1 inch. As that's processing, I mixed her second formula, which is the Deep Shine Gloss 6N with the 6 chocolate, and I started applying that immediately right where the first gloss stopped. So that way I'm glossing everything all at the same time. And her gloss sat for 8 minutes total once I was fully done with the application. So on her root area, it probably sat for a full 20. And that's how I'm able to get such nice shine and dimension in her color. Social media is a huge way to build your book because you can literally market yourself for free at home or at the salon. So if you have a gap in your book at all, I don't know about you, Matt, but I use my gaps to create more content that I post on my Instagram page, and I get a ton of business off of my Instagram page.